In Tesla and in SpaceX, you can truly be working on something that gets launched on a rocket later that day. Software, hardware is deployed same day. I think most people don't realize this because they're used to multi-year lead times.
I'm here in my home studio right behind me for a conversation with Joe Justice. Joe was a former Tesla employee who operated Agile at Tesla at the Fremont Factory in 2020, back when it was still Tesla's global headquarters. Joe's been a gift to the Tesla community, giving us an inside look at how Tesla works. In this video, I'll speak with Joe about life at Tesla, joining the company, working at Tesla, and eventually leaving Tesla. Click subscribe to stay updated to more interviews on Tesla.
We can make this the first Zoom interview ever where I show my actual background.
Are you a pilot?
Oh no, but I did get married in a helicopter. It was during COVID and our families and friends weren't traveling. It was just her and I. So we're like, let's do it in a helicopter.
It's beautiful. So Joe, thank you for being here. What is one thing that most people don't already know about you?
I designed and built 14 cars, road and race cars, with teams that I helped assemble every part of the cars. The heating systems, the cooling, the racing performance, the carbon fiber shells, the aluminum chassis, the crash test safety, orchestrating the crash tests, getting road legal approval from the various governments. We've sold some in Europe and the USA. I'm one of the few people alive that has designed, built, and manufactured every single part of a car.
That's a very unique fun fact. Now we're going to dive into the world of Tesla, and all our questions will be in 3 segments. We're going to start with joining Tesla, then we're going to move to working in Tesla, and lastly, leaving Tesla. We've seen a lot of articles. Tesla is very popular with young engineers, not just Tesla, but SpaceX. Why is that, Joe?
The ability to see what you're making. Most companies, you work on a process or a skill group, and you don't get to see end-to-end even any given part. So if you work in most aerospace companies, you might file a certain type of document for your entire career or for a large portion of your career. Or most companies, you're in meetings about what we should do, what we could do, and you're negotiating how to channel budgets. In a Musk company, you are required to create new production processes, design new parts, remove, delete, or improve production processes, test parts, negotiate with governments end to end, which is why my previous experience actually plugged in a very perfect way, actually, in a Musk company. People like the serotonin release, the excitement release of seeing something they made. And in a lot of companies, you can work for 7 years and what you're working on still isn't finished because you just did a part of it. Like maybe you did the seatbelt latch for a truck and that truck still hasn't come to market. And you did like advanced seatbelt latch concepts and none of them were ever used. And that's your whole career. In Tesla and in SpaceX, you can truly be working on something that gets launched on a rocket later that day. Software, hardware is deployed same day. I think most people don't realize this because they're used to multi-year lead times. In Tesla, very often within 3 hours, something you designed or were part of a group that designed is being installed in production. That's so thrilling to actually see end to end. And the rate of learning is faster, of course, because you have a rapid feedback loop of how is this thing performing in customer use. You might see that in just a few days' time, actual analytics coming back from customer use in the case of Tesla.
That is so invigorating. Elon Musk has recently said that they specialize in turning the impossible to the late. And just through rapid iteration, the impossible becomes possible. When it comes to interviewing, Elon likes to ask this question: what's evidence of exceptional ability? How effective has that question been in finding great people?
So the only evidence of exceptional ability is what you've produced, your result. As a result, product-based learning and project-based learning is your most important interviewing power. If on an interview you show you have an advanced degree in production manufacturing or aerospace engineering, that is a minor plus, if considered at all. Much more interesting is, did you design and build your own drone? wrap the windings on the motors yourself, troubleshoot the way the electricity was being circled around to get maximum RPM for the least amount of heat loss. How did you measure the heat loss? That is what is treasured in an interview. And that is how you identify exceptional capability. If someone has built rocket engines, tested them, and they understand why their designs are not good yet, that's who you want to hire. And that is exceptional capability.
So sounds to me as an outsider like evidence of initiative and creative problem solving.
And doing your chores. Musk does like to talk about how important it is to do your chores. And that means you handle personality issues, personnel issues. You do the work that no one wants to do, and you need to do that a little bit every day. So if you've actually made a project, it means you didn't just do the drawing of the cool part, which is the fun part, but you dealt with the challenging engineering issues and personnel issues all the way to getting it done. So it shows also that you did your chores. Now, the timeline of that project also matters. If you built something interesting in just one summer, that means you did your chores quickly. That's worth a lot when you're interviewing in a Musk company.
Interesting. You've also talked about how in Tesla, well, everyone's hands-on. Because you work with so many automotive companies, it would be hard to imagine, say, the CEO of Porsche actually being in the factory floor, building a car or working in a paint shop. And you talked about how you used to work where Elon Musk slept in the paint shop. So for a senior leader who's thinking about joining Tesla, say in a country manager role, a plant director role, what's one word of advice for them?
They'll need to get fit if they're not fit already, so that they can actually join wherever in manufacturing is the bottleneck. Programming robots or loading robots, so that's lifting 20 kilograms all day. They need to be able to do that for at least 12 hours in a stretch comfortably and do it again the next day, basically indefinitely. So there's a physicality that most senior people, experienced people especially, don't have anymore. Even if they play sports after work, they've been sitting in meetings all day in most companies. In the Musk companies, there's no sitting, there's no meetings. There's working meetings, but you're standing at a robot while you're trying to work with the robot, making the important strategic decisions as a group. The next part is there is no tolerance for not sharing information or for making a decision alone. So you would need to be comfortable with working in a group of some people who've just been hired, potentially, collaboratively making a decision, because they're the ones that might have more on the ground information. So if you're used to coming in from your ivory tower with information you've held and making the decision and walking out, you would be fired immediately.
This is not a conventional company. When you join Tesla, it's out in the public that you are given a 4-page anti-handbook handbook, which talks a lot about our culture. There's very little hierarchy. How much of that is hype versus reality in your experience?
The Musk companies are completely flat. Anyone can talk to Elon at any time. No one is allowed to block you from talking to anyone, including Elon. You are radically empowered. Now, that said, if you do a bunch of really silly things and it slows down the company, if you create bottlenecks, that's the problem, not flat organization. So if you want experience as a plant manager, you can do it basically on your first day as being hired or very near. You complete a set of training programs in an app on your mobile phone, Tesla training apps, and now you are legally informed to the level that you can be a plant manager, and you can rotate through or pair with the plant manager essentially right on hire, regardless of your age or background. That level of self-organization into role lets you build your resume likely faster than anywhere else on the planet.
Now we transition into working at Tesla, Joe. So you operated Agile at Tesla at the Fremont Factory. My broad understanding is it's about getting same or better quality at a faster pace. A pace of innovation is really important. How would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
All the work is in the factory. Most companies have an office where they design, maybe another office where they make decisions, and another office where they write software. And then they have the building where the cars are actually made, where the rockets are actually made. In Tesla, there's only the buildings where the cars are actually made. So everyone is in there. Then what makes it change fast is if you can test if something is better than it was before. So you can quickly make some change, introduce a new part, paint the cars a different way, and quickly check, is it better than it was before? That's called agility, knowing that it's better or worse very quickly. That was my job. So you would have something called a definition of done. If you paint a car, you have measures of its quality, the paint quality, the coatings quality, the durability. Was it affordable? Is it environmentally friendly? It's your measures of done. Automating that with artificial intelligence, with robots and computers, lets you change really quickly what you make, because in a few seconds, you know if this car that you changed is better than the one you made before. Then you have something called definition of ready, because everyone is changing stuff all the time. So you see things that you've never seen before every day. And you have to think, for example, if you're in paint, can I still paint this car? I've never seen this car before. This happens every day. Your prototypes coming through, different types of concepts, also modifications, like the first GigaCast Model Y. I remember when that came in front of me, and I've never seen a GigaCast car before. And I had to paint it. That was one of the things I was doing. And it's a different shape, it's a different metal. Like, will these coatings even bond? Like, what do I do? So you have also a definition of ready, which is a set of cameras and laptops and cloud computing software that helps you decide, can you do your work? Because things are changing ahead of you too. So you see something you've never seen before, and you have computers saying, is it ready for you? Does it meet the definition of ready? Or do you need to introduce new work to make it ready for you? So you have definition of ready and definition of done. And the faster those change, the more agile you are, the faster you can change, the faster you can make improvements. Most companies make a set of changes every 2.5 years to a car, a minor model change. Tesla makes that level of change every day. And that's what we call agile. That's these definitions of ready, definitions of done, and the software and hardware stacks that do that. That's what I did. I helped author definition of ready and definition of done, and I helped train the artificial intelligence and set up the electronics to measure and communicate to you definition of ready and definition of done.
That's going to be a pretty smart 5-year-old. I'm learning all of this from you myself as well. So it actually isn't just the products that change a lot. The work you do as a Tesla employee could change even hourly as well. So how do people wrap their heads around that?
The software really makes the difference. I do think people think of a Tesla as software with wheels or laptop with wheels. What I think a lot of people don't understand is the factories are basically, you're working inside a computer. They're software driven. So the software communicates to you what potential changes or improvements are or could be. Yeah, come on in. You're part of the interview.
Hello.
This is my wife, Miho. Oh, lovely coffee.
Both of you have a lovely photo.
I'm super lucky. She was actually with me in Fremont, California at Tesla. She wasn't an employee at the time, but she was also working from Fremont when I was there too.
Nice. It's good and bad in a sense, but I guess it's easier for a spouse to understand the demand of the work, the intensity of it.
The intensity was absurd, and maybe now is as good a part as any about actually working in Tesla. Very often I'd come in an hour or more early to take notes about the definition of ready, stuff that's going to be coming into wherever I thought I'd be working that day. And as you mentioned, the work you're doing changes day by day, your processes, and the software helps you understand what to do, but you have to think on your feet. You have to think as you build. Then I would often stay an hour or more late to follow parts I'd built or processes I'd designed or machines I'd been working with to see where that stuff continued on and how people reacted to it. Was the definition of done good enough that the following people could work well with those parts, those processes, those chemicals, that software, whatever it was. And I'd end up being there very often 14, 15, 16 hours a day. So I would come back to where Miho and I were staying, and I'd have a beer and I'd shower and I'd eat dinner and I'd go to sleep. Then I'd wake up at 3 a.m. usually, and I'd have a coffee. Maybe I would have a light breakfast, and I'd shower again, because especially I was very often in paints, and in paints you can't wear cologne, or most colognes you can't wear deodorant. So you want to shower everything away, because even little particles of cologne or particles of deodorant can react with the paint and make they look like pimples, either dips or bumps, as the paints cure. So you'd shower before and you'd shower after, and you'd put on special suits. I worked many places other than paint, but very often I'd spend at least part of each day in coatings, because that was the primary bottleneck while I was there. And that's it. I had this lovely fiance. We were married just after, and I didn't see her at all. I mean, I during the workday. Now you work 3 days a week, and then you have 4 days off. And then you work 4 days the next week, and you have 3 days off. The risk is that you do something really fun and strenuous, because you're like, I have 4 weeks, I'm going to go camping. And I'd come back from camping like I would for a normal job. You know, I'm kind of tired, kind of sore. I've been camping. Maybe I didn't eat so well because I didn't pack quite right, and we ran out of food with a day to go or whatever. But you know, I'm okay, because most jobs, when you come back from camping, you can kind of sit and take it easy for the next day, maybe even 2, maybe even week. In most jobs, you can just absorb that. Not at Tesla. It is the professional sport. It's the extreme sports of work. And that was the hardest part. Miho and I went to a national park called Yosemite in California. Beautiful. Actually, we were at the park next to it. And I was a little tired, and I went into work the next morning. I was crushed. It was very difficult to keep up. I was completely behind on the level of performance. So your off days are training days. You'd better be in the gym. You'd better be eating a rigorous diet. I mean, you can see your family, but you have to be keeping the same schedule, getting up and going to sleep at the same time. That was absolutely the most grueling part. Now it's worth it. You're basically an Olympic athlete, or whatever your top level. You're basically a professional athlete. And so you have to live that way if you want to last. But if your family, friends, pets, kids support that, you're fine. But you have to think about it like you're training for the most intense sports event, mental and physical, emotional. I mean, there's personal issues too. So you've got to have like personality training too, to put the right personality out for 12, 14, 16 hours a day for maximum speed is important. I think a lot of people don't understand that. This is why many people say the Musk companies are for young people. But I will say, one of the people I ended up working with many times was in their 70s. They're more than 70 years old. They were better than most people there, regardless of age. So you can do this at any age. But I think you do need to have a very rigorous nutrition, exercise, and sleep schedule at the least.
You really need the right, not just yourself, but the right family support system. For someone like me, I've got a young daughter. Flexibility is important. I love the mission, but is there a place in Tesla for someone like me? As an outsider, it doesn't come across that way right now. It's like you're all in for 12 hours or you're out.
This is my passion now that I am outside Tesla, is trying to say, well, first, let me say, Elon Musk open sourced most of Tesla's patents in, I believe it was 2016. Elon saying, it doesn't matter if Mercedes-Benz makes electric cars, Volkswagen, Ford, Lexus, Skoda, Seat, Chrysler, now Stellantis, or Tesla. What matters is that cars are electric. And Musk saying, everyone, here's our patents. They're now open source. Go make electric cars, make a lot of really good electric cars. Musk has always been this way. Now, interestingly, Tesla is financially now just continues to grow. They're even at a relative down point, and they're still worth more than the next 10 auto companies added together. So Tesla is open and inviting. Tesla wants to improve humanity And SpaceX is exactly the same. All the Musk companies are that way. They're open. My passion now is how can I help all companies, if they want, or people who want to make their own company, make a company that gets 80% of the value of a Musk company, 80% of the speed of innovation of a Musk company with less intensity. Like, what if you want to work 4-hour days? Or what if you are a phenomenally talented person for 2 hours a day? That's just what your energy level is.
Yeah.
Where can you work? Right now, there's not a place for you in the Musk companies. So what do you do? My passion is how do people in their 70s and grade school kids and people with different levels of energy and interest, how can they have a phenomenal contribution to life and quality of life for all plants, animals, and people? And right now I call it the justice method. I bravely named it after myself. And it's absolutely what I learned operating Agile in Tesla and trying to then figure out what part of this is still valuable if people work 6 hours a day or 8 hours a day or 2 hours a day. For example, if you dial down the intensity, how do you still get most of the value?
Agree. There are many forms that excellence can manifest itself. It's not just an Elon Musk company. Yeah, even the own company you founded, Wikispeed, you hold, I believe, 4 world records. You beat Tesla on certain activities or contests as well. Tesla or Elon Musk companies don't hold a monopoly to excellence. There are many ways to achieve it. Your time working at Tesla, Joe, what would you say was the most unique gift you got out of it? How has that changed you?
Maybe this doesn't sound as cool as it is, but when you're actually in the factories for hours and hours and hours, the floor vibrates a certain way when machines are doing certain things. There's some smells. In general, it smells pretty good, but there's some smells when certain things are happening. There's how quickly things move. That indirect learning has completely enabled me to work with machines in other factories, processes in other companies, founding some of my own additional companies at a level I never could have gotten any other way. The indirect experiential learning is absolutely the most valuable thing at Tesla. Like when cars are going through having giga press pieces put on, how quickly are they going through? Did they slow down just when they reached the giga press assembly? Do they sit in a queue? Are they on carts? Are they on cranes? Why? How? What's the speed and slowdown, the traffic pattern inside the factory? That would be almost impossible to understand without either a custom-made visualization or simply working for hours and hours and hours. That level of understanding of the actual flow in the fastest innovating companies on planet Earth has changed my life and is far and away the most valuable experience.
It's a saying that a picture is 1,000 words. An experience to me is 1,000,000 words. In this world of work, the unique way that Tesla has it, and you've seen many companies, you worked in many companies, they've seen how Tesla is able to produce excellence. Why don't we have software engineers sitting on top of the production line? Why don't we have our leadership C-suite being on the factory floor? What's stopping other companies from emulating at least parts of it? Is it arrogance? Is it naivety? What's stopping them?
I think most people do like to sit down, watch a presentation, and make a decision if they have a choice. If they have a choice between doing the engineering or working at the bottleneck or fixing the elevator, they would rather sit in a comfortable chair and see a presentation about the broken elevator in the factory and then say, well, then we should have someone fix that. People like that. They like that a lot. So you need a very special type of personality who would prefer, they have the choice. They could sit in the comfortable chair, or they could go and download the PDF in another language and use Google Translate or DeepL and try to understand how to fix the elevator while you wait for the elevator technicians who may or may not be there in 45 minutes. But you think maybe we can do it now. And maybe they're going to be delayed, maybe they never come. So we really should start. You need to find and cultivate that level of initiative, especially at the top. And most companies at the very top, you have people who are near or past essentially being retired. They're already checked out, right? They're already on vacation. And they have no interest in laying on their back inside an elevator shaft, working tools. And if you have 20% or more staff who doesn't want to lay on their back in an elevator shaft, your company will never adopt the culture that the Musk companies do. And this is part of what Musk calls doing your chores, finding the people who are laying on their back in the elevator shaft and wrenching and making sure that there's a great job for them, and finding anyone who's not willing to do it and help them find a job somewhere else.
You've talked about how when you first joined Tesla, it almost feels like you were joining the Starship Troopers, right? It's this very high-tech, crazy place, but yet, you're not just surrounded by tech, it's also, on the other side, very Spartan. Like, things are very basic and simple in the sense there are no chairs for most people. Back then, for your time, the bathroom was a 7.5-minute walk away. You really just had to hustle. It felt like the special forces were working there. How much of that is a myth, or is that a wider range of reality for Tesla employees, especially corporate stuff?
It's even more basic, I think, than that sounds. Like, I love how Farzad Mesbazi, another former Tesla employee, describes it as working with sticks and stones. It really is. I mean, a lot of the time there's dirt, like you're working on a dirt floor under a tarp, and you're working with the most advanced robot on planet Earth. You know, likely a prototype or a set of 10 prototypes of a new type of robot that's never existed, and it's absolutely running the most sophisticated software of its kind ever to run. But it's dirty. There's like sticky candy wrappers nearby. I mean, you clean constantly. You're cleaning constantly, but it's the opposite of this beautiful white quiet box, because a beautiful white quiet box means nothing's changing. Changing stuff means there's pieces of things all over. There's dirt, there's 3 pieces of something you used to be working with and you don't know if you'll need them again. In a lot of houses that I grew up in, there's a drawer, usually in the kitchen, with like some screws and like half of something, and you don't know what it is, but maybe you need it later. Like that's Tesla, that's SpaceX. You're in that drawer. And in that drawer is also a prototype of the next generation phone. And like some of the coolest things on planet Earth are in there too. But it's that we call it the junk drawer where I grew up. It's that's exactly it. So it's a lot dirtier and bumpier and less square than I think a lot of people would think it would be. Yeah, maybe it's less like Starship Troopers when you joined and more like Starship Troopers when they're in the middle of battle and there's like broken rocks and stuff everywhere.
I can see the appeal for many people. To some, it's almost addictive. Just like Starship Troopers, they expect the best, but they also give the best. So Tesla employees are well rewarded by stock. And you've mentioned before that Tesla employees get stock at a discount. There is a base income that everyone gets. Most smart employees will buy Tesla stock. How much does the stock mean to employees?
A lot of the people I worked with already had more than $1 million US because of stock. And they continued to work in the company because they were passionate about the mission and they liked the work.
With the recent news of the 3-for-1 stock split, what's the practical benefit for employees on the factory floor?
It means the stock strike price for employees will become much lower. Already, you get a deep enough discount that almost everyone can afford Tesla stock. It depends how you're used to spending your money. If you, as soon as you're paid, spend it all, then of course you wouldn't have money for any long-range investment. But even if you save only a small piece or retain a small piece of each paycheck, because the paychecks are very basic for everyone, you can still buy shares because the discount is so good and it's lumped. You buy it at strike times. Typically it's something like every 6 months and you get the lowest price with a percentage under the lowest price for the last 6 months. So it's always this awesomely low price. And even if you've only retained a small amount per paycheck, it aggregates up until your strike time. And that's all automated. You basically just say, yes, I'd like to do it. And the Tesla system, at least at the time, orchestrated almost all of that for you. So it's very easy. What it means is it'll be even easier for Tesla employees to strike than for people outside the Musk companies who aren't putting in 12 to 16 hours passionately into the company. People like me now, and maybe like you now, what it does mean is you can get a lot more shares a lot faster should you want to support the company. If you believe in the product roadmap and you believe in what the company is trying to do as something positive for civilization, then you have an opportunity to refuel, to amass many more shares much faster. Now, interestingly, the last 5-to-1 stock split is while I was in the company, and the price very rapidly went up to the stock price per stock very rapidly increased again to the price it had been before the 5-to-1 stock split. In fact, it then continued increasing for an over 5x gain, even though a 5-to-1 stock split would mean you have 400% more, 400% over your previous value. It actually went past that as it continued to grow. No one can predict the future. Public markets are not purely rational, and they're influenced by things as strange as where countries have declared war, which you might not have any direct advanced knowledge of, right? But there is a chance that it will trigger mass interest in the stock and ramp up the stock price again. There's that chance. It did happen before. But the primary goal, regardless, is that at least for a period of time, anyone with one share will suddenly have 3. So if you can save up and get 1, you will magically have 3. And if you buy shortly after, the price could just rise up again like it did before. But there's a possibility you would be able to buy a portion of the company at a far lower price.
Just like how investors have an exit strategy for stocks. As we transition now to leaving Tesla, what's a right strategy to have to exit Tesla?
Everyone in the company is going to help you make your resume. Because in the company, you don't have traditional job roles. Everybody does everything. So how do you map that to companies that are primarily outside Tesla, that are primarily skills-based and siloed? People will help translate what you actually did to what normal companies expect in terms of resume. And Tesla is very good at that. And there's 2 HR departments that will help you, HR and production HR. They'll both assist. So that's one, the company will help you prepare. Then before, I told myself as I was preparing to leave, who do I want to make sure I'm able to get a hold of easily, and I want to make sure they can get a hold of me. Let's make sure we've exchanged multiple ways of getting in touch with each other. What is it I wish I understood? And I chose to work in those areas in priority order. Like, for example, I really wanted to understand how Tesla motors were wound, especially as the Plaid program was developing, and the carbon windings to assist the motor production process. So I spent a lot of time in motors. I wanted to make sure I understood the many, many different ways the battery packs are constructed in the modules. So I spent time working in many of the different battery production areas, and innovation and new product introduction, because again, those are all mixed. I don't know how many people really understand that. So if you're in the production area, that is also the area where the advanced areas are being tested, developed, and tried. That's also where you're doing warranty support. I mean, they're mixed, they're stacked. But I thought of which areas of what this company knows do I wish I truly understood the state of the art, the best in the world. And then you would self-allocate there to fill your head. And I kept a diary. I kept notes every morning and every evening. I also would make video clips and audio clips. I'm not allowed to release video clips. I don't have that permission. But my audio clips are being used to create the update for my book, because it was what I wanted to learn. And by creating a diary, it would help me know what questions I still had, and I would try to answer those the next day. Then also for me, I really wanted a Tesla race car. I wanted a truly race-oriented Tesla. So while I was there, I mean, you have access to all the CAD, all the machinery. You can do anything. I converted my Model 3 to a hardcore race car in the Tesla factory. So in a way, it is a Tesla factory race car, in a way, made by a Tesla employee in the factory. But I had bought it at a Tesla dealer and then took it to the factory to convert it. And then I raced it at some racetracks across the USA. So that was a goal for me. What are my life goals related to the company? Do those. And the company gives you so much freedom. You can make a race car after you've done your other work. You can go spend time in batteries and in motors if you want to. I did go deep in paintings and coatings, not because that was my passion topic, but because that's where the bottleneck is.
Got it.
So I made sure I read a whole bunch of books on paintings and coatings, technical books, like mixing chemicals, and then tried to translate that into the machines, like working with the robot, changing nozzles, etc. So yeah, you create your bucket list in the company to prepare to leave. That said, the company is so welcoming, in my experience, to anytime you join or anytime you go. Like they help you update your resume and translate it to what normal work does. They'll help you plan for these things. Then of course you'd want to, for financial reasons, if you're interested in the company's stock, it's cheaper when you're an employee. So you'd want to schedule your purchases, your strikes before departing. And if you buy a Tesla while you're an employee and it's delivered to you while you're an employee, the check is if you have a Tesla email address. If you have a Tesla email address that's active when the car is delivered, you get free full self-driving software, which as of today, I think is $12,000 US, maybe more again, it keeps going up. So that's free. So I bought my mom a Tesla. I scheduled it to be delivered to me so that my mom could have full self-driving as my gift to her as she ages, that way she has the assistance.
Lucky mom. She's very fortunate to have you. Serving in Tesla, it's not just a sprint, it's a marathon. It's high intensity consistently. Very rewarding, but high intensity. If someone has served, say, 3 hours, I've done my part, I've helped solve multiple bottlenecks, demonstrated excellence. But right now, I'm at a stage of life where I just need to spend 3 years with my daughter. And we think of it like almost like professional sports, tour of duty. Why just exit the team for a while, come back later? How receptive is Tesla to that?
100%. 100%. In fact, Tesla is begging to hire people in almost every position. And for a number of reasons, it's not easy for Tesla to get as many people as they want. So Tesla, one, has to be receptive, and two, wants to be. There really is a love of people in the culture. And what do I want to say? Even if you make mistakes, as long as you're not malicious, as long as you're not intentional in trying to hurt people or dangerously stupid, but you're just making mistakes, the company is incredibly forgiving. You could mess up some cars trying something new, but if you actually were trying something new, fine. They'll remake the cars or even scrap and recycle the cars. That's a worthy investment in you learning how to improve process. The company is super forgiving. So whatever your reason for leaving and then coming back, absolutely welcome.
These people who leave, do you see them having a positive impact to industry? Let's say I leave to become the vice president of drivetrains at Lucid, or I go into a Toyota, Volkswagen. Because you talked a lot about culture in previous videos, and how if somebody bought Tesla and replaced Tesla's management, let's say with rent-out management, it's not going to be the same company almost instantly. But for Tesla alumni, especially leaders, leaving to become leaders in other companies, not just auto companies, what's the effect you've seen? Any evidence of success there?
An enormous amount. We're really lucky, and I think we can call this the Musk effect, that people learn how to perform at an incredibly high level and then found companies, join other companies, help improve other companies. And I do believe the entire world is beginning to innovate faster and faster and faster across all companies. Now, there is always a downside. Maybe someone really didn't fit in Tesla or in SpaceX or in Neuralink or OpenAI or the Boring Company, and they're angry about it. So now you have someone who has some emotional healing to do, and they're in a position of influence in another company, and maybe they weren't even that great in the Musk company, so they didn't really learn the process. So you always could have a risk like that. And maybe out of 100 people that leave a Musk company, 1%, one of those people is just absolutely exceptional in almost every dimension. And one of them is the bottom 1%. Maybe they're malicious, maybe they had a very poor experience, maybe they're angry. So you'll always have that spread just by statistics. But in general, out of 100, far and away the majority are going to be we're seeing this in all industries, a tremendous force for, how do I, not settling. Like what actually makes the Musk companies so fast, like I said, is that you're the one that's going to lay on your back in the elevator shaft and not watch a report. So if you join another company and someone offers you a report because, oh, you're precious, you're awesome, you're from a Musk company, you're this important thing, let's give you a really nice office. Hopefully you will choose to never go into your office, put your email on auto reply, and simply work, because that is what actually makes it work, right? So that's your gift, that's your value add. And hopefully a lot of people do that and don't just like sink into retirement.
You've shared before that, or story on why you left Tesla. It was a difficult decision between your son's 4th birthday and the work at Tesla, which is always important. The rear casting for the Model Y, heat pumps for the Model 3 and Model Y back then. Can you share with us that story? And maybe now, as the years have passed, what new reflections have come?
I realized that I could actually, I'd made an enormous financial mistake. I had about $1 million in Tesla shares when I joined the company. And my ethics, I wanted to come into the company without wanting to see a great company. How do I say it? If I walked in with more than $1 million in ownership of the company, I would want to see something that would make me proud of those shares. Or worse yet, what if I saw something really bad? I would have bad conscience using insider information to sell shares, right? Either way. So I sold all my shares the day, just like a few hours before I signed the employment contract. And I joined the company. And when you first join, you enter a blackout period. You can't buy or sell stock. And I saw in the public news, Reuters News, for the first time in years, didn't write a negative piece about Tesla, artificially negative press. Instead, they actually wrote a absurdly positive piece, like not even neutral. Like it was suddenly incredibly positive. And I said, oh, wow, the press has decided it's time for Tesla stock to go to the value it actually should have been for a long time. And I'd been waiting for this event. I didn't know if it would happen now or in 10 years, but I'd been waiting for it. And I said, oh no, it's right now. That happened right after I'd sold my shares and I was in a blackout period. And I actually had a tremendous difficulty sleeping because I knew no one would check my personal stock trading account. It wasn't a Tesla account. It was its own provider. No one would check. I could buy all those shares back and I would make a huge amount of money, but it actually was illegal if I had bought the shares back during the blackout period, but no one would check. No one would know, especially if I didn't talk about it. And I kept thinking, should I just buy it? No one will know. But my ethics don't. I never did. I didn't buy the shares back. And I actually missed the increase in value. I missed about $5 million US approval increase over that time. And I was so frustrated with myself and the situation I put myself in. And I realized that as an employee with blackout periods, you actually have less capability. You can buy and hold, which is actually a great strategy. That's actually the best strategy. But you have less capability to use the stock as an employee than when you're not an employee. And I said, my primary income is never going to be my paycheck, just like for anyone in Tesla. My primary income is going to be what I learned and the stock. I have more power with the stock when I'm not an employee. So let's learn everything I wanted to learn. Let's operate the Agile program to the utmost effect. Let's mentor these teams to deliver on the Agile at Tesla programs. And then let's leave and make the primary income the stock package again. So it was actually that. Now, I ended up doing great financially afterwards. When I did buy back in, it continued to climb. It was all fine. I moved to Hawaii. I mean, it worked out. But I would have been even more extraordinarily wealthy, whatever that value is, had I not sold the shares, or had I illegally bought back in during the blackout period. But I didn't do either. I bought shares again after I left Tesla again. So actually, when I was an employee, I didn't hold shares except maybe the last few days after the blackout period ended. So that was a strong financial reason. Then the second is I wanted to send a very clear communication to Tesla HR that my son had a birthday. It was on the days I was scheduled, but there was a problem in Tesla factory scheduling software where I was not able to use the software. It was a bug, a set of bugs actually. And I was working with different people to address that. But top priority is make more cars, make better cars, make more awesome cars. And this kept not being fixed. I wanted to highlight the importance of this scheduling algorithm through the apps on the employees' phones and said, look, you're not able to fix this in time for my son's birthday. So this is when I'll choose to resign. And I believe that communication had the effect I wanted it to have. The person who happened to be plant manager at the time came down and said, Joe, please don't go. We'll fix this. And I said, okay, we'll fix it in the app. I want to schedule this time off right now. And they're like, well, it's not fixed yet. Well, it was actually a very upbuilding, loving conversation, but I used the timing to, I hope, make a point that I hope improved the capability for all Tesla employees. I hope many more of them then made all of their families' birthdays.
Agree. No parent should have to choose between a child's birthday and work, no matter how important a piece of work is, even if it's making humanity a multi-planetary species.
Tesla is a super safe place to work. I think the real goal is to work somewhere with your kids. I mean, that's, depending on the age, that's what the kids really love the most, is trying to learn what it means to be an adult and useful and make humanity a multiplanetary species. So the top level of work is where it's safe enough for kids. And Tesla is very nearly there. SpaceX is very nearly there, as bizarre as that sounds, because it's a production environment that's constantly changing even. But even more so, where kids can contribute. The level of radical creativity, having a way to make use of that. And where very, very old people can actively contribute in a useful way. I mean, if your work is only valuable for the highest energy, most brilliant people, there's probably something wrong with the way you're conducting your work, or there's an opportunity, right? So ideally, our kids should be with us at work if they want to, and if we want them. And ideally, our parents and grandparents should be too. That is the goal, right? I mean, when we're a multiplanetary species on Starship house castles drifting out to other nebulae, we're all together working. It's not like you want a separate Starship just for the 18 to 28-year-olds, right? You want one where they're doing great things together.
You've shared how amazing it is in Tesla that no matter where you come from, how smart you think you are, you could be an MIT graduate running Obama's re-election campaign, or someone who may have been homeless, may have a felony offense before in the past, but everyone delivered at a high level of excellence. They had the potential and the opportunity to do so, where in many other places they may have been judged, prejudged in different ways. What's one last tip you have for those of us considering working at Tesla?
Everyone on planet Earth should try and should work in a Musk company for as long as you can. That is your education. A lot of people, if they can, they go to advanced education or trade school. Skip that. Go to a Musk company if you can, in any position. In fact, look for the worst position that no one wants, because then it'll be easier to get in. Because once you're in, you do whatever the company needs anyway, no matter what you were hired in to do. So ignore whatever the title is on the outside. That is irrelevant. But everyone should, for absolutely as long as you can. That is your college education, your postdoctorate education, all of it. and then decide what you really want to do to make the world better. I would say, hopefully, with your family.
Thank you for your insights, your stories, and inspiring us, Joe. How can the audience stay in touch with you?
Daren, let's be best friends forever. Anyone who might be listening, you can reach me on Twitter at Joe Justice. And then I do have a consulting company now. I train what I learned in the Musk method. I call it Agile Hardware Development. That's ABI for Agile Business Institute -agile.com, ABI-agile, AGILE.com. And I have classes and consulting there. I wrote books. They're on Amazon and LeanPub. It's all under Joe Justice. I'd love to connect with you on Facebook or LinkedIn, or I'm fastest on Twitter. Make sure you tag Daren so we can be part of this conversation going forward. And thank you, everybody.
I'll put a link down in the video description for you to learn more about Joe. If you found this video useful, please click the like button. Hit subscribe to stay updated to more videos on Tesla. Take care.